Ahem. Today, we are going to embark on a journey through my life as a gamer. Over the course of the Christmas season, I've been exploring the games that were most influential to me and my life through the vessel of some of their greatest pieces of music, and I'm delighted to finally share my findings. In this time of year that so often has my mind reminiscing on the past, I will be focusing on the two major eras of my life thus far. The first decade of my life, and the second decade of my life, exploring each of the most significant games I played during each period, and discussing exactly why they have impacted me the way they have. Through this, I hope that you come to understand me and my tastes just a little bit better. So, on with the show. Our journey begins in 2007. My very first gaming memory consists of my stepdad playing Mario Kart DS on his black DS Lite. I remember it so distinctly. It was in the living room of the first house I remember living in. I lived in another house for the first few months of my life, but obviously I don't remember that. We were sat on the sofa. He was playing as Mario in the B-Dasher on Figure 8 Circuit. He was in second place, and the Luigi CPU was in first. He had gotten a red shell from an item box and threw it at Luigi. Apparently, I had some degree of awareness as to who these characters were, because upon seeing Mario throw a shell at Luigi, I asked my stepdad, how come they're throwing items at each other? I thought they were supposed to be friends. This was when I learned that Mario and Luigi were in fact brothers. This was the day the course of my life was set into stone. All I needed to do now was actually play a video game. Not too long after discovering that Mario and Luigi were brothers, I got my hands on my very own Nintendo DS, and with it, a copy of New Super Mario Bros. This was the first game I ever owned and played myself, and I have so many memories with it, but for the sake of maintaining some semblance of brevity, I'll focus on three. My first memory of this game takes place in my nana's kitchen, in the same house she still lives in now. I don't remember when this was specifically, but I know that I absolutely hadn't had the game long. I was on the World 1 map screen with not a single level beaten, and I was bragging to my nana about how good I was at the game. I said to her, you run over to the red dot, run back, and turn the game off and on again because you don't know what to do. I had not made a single ounce of progress, and yet, I was genuinely rather pleased with myself. My second memory takes place in the same house as my Mario Kart DS memory. I had figured out how to get into the first level at this point, but not how to finish it. It was an early morning and I was playing this game in my bedroom, and I ran into my mom's room to ask her for help. She was very much asleep, but this did not matter to me. This level needed to be beaten. I left her the DS and went about my morning, patiently waiting those many seconds for her to make some progress. Suddenly, she called me into her room, telling me, Mario just got huge, come and look! The sheer excitement I felt is indescribable. Alas, by the time I got to her room, the effects of the Mega Mushroom had worn off. Truly a sad day. My other main memories with this game are all in the Mario vs Luigi mode. I played this game mode so much, especially with my brother, but my favourite memory involves my friend Kevin. We were on a trip to God Camp in our first year of secondary school, and we killed a lot of our downtime playing this mode to an audience of the rest of our friend group. I was doing particularly well, and Kevin was getting very angry, demanding that I stopped killing him, which, by the way, is not necessary to win this mode, but does make it more fun. I remember distinctly that I ran into him with the blue shell power-up, killing him, and then smugly said, nah, good times. After seeing me sink a reasonable amount of time into my DS, my parents decided a Nintendo Wii would be a solid investment. I don't remember precisely when I got my Wii. My best guess would be Christmas of either 2008 or 2009. Either way, I very quickly became enamored with the system. A lot of my time was spent with the obvious heavy hitters, some of which we'll be visiting later, but even to this day, I would say that my experience with the Wii was largely defined by two less than well-known titles. Pokepark Wii was my first exposure to Pokemon, and one of the first Wii games I ever got. I was, and to be perfectly honest, still am, completely and utterly infatuated with this game. As a kid, the tranquility and openness of the Pokepark was incredibly captivating to me, The Pokemon all wandering around, living their lives, allowed me to feel more connected to the world, and the simplistic gameplay allowed an ease of play that very much appealed to younger me. I would always dream of one day visiting the Poke Park, and just taking in the gorgeous mountainscapes that surrounded its locales, take a dip in the exquisitely rendered water of its beaches and rivers, and be one with the beauty of the park's nature. I know that this game is not looked on particularly fondly by a great many people, but I still find myself replaying it at least once a year. It's one of my all-time favourite games, and defined a core part of my gaming childhood. I only wish more people had the same fondness for it I do. So, you may be wondering, which other game sat alongside Poke Park Wii as my unconventional childhood time sink? Well, my friends, the answer to that question should not come as much of a surprise. It's hard to say for sure whether I put as many raw hours into it as I did Poke Park Wii, but Mario Sports Mix absolutely gets to share the mantle with that game as a defining piece of my childhood. Much like with Poke Park Wii, I know that this game is not looked back on particularly fondly. It plays it pretty safe gameplay-wise, the locales for the most part are fairly generic Mario coded, and as a single player, there isn't much to do outside of the tournaments. But my friends, all of those things are exactly what drew me to this game. I wasn't cognizant of this, naturally, but knowing what I do now, that play it safe approach gave this game an approachability that made it click with younger me big time. And I mean big time. I sank untold dozens of hours into this game, replaying the tournament mode for each of the sports again and again and again, hoping to discover new routes and unlocks, messing around with only 2 of the 4 party modes because the other 2 intimidated me, being absolutely ecstatic when I unlocked different color variations of Yoshi and Toad. This was my game! But my love for this one goes so far beyond the game itself. I have so many memories of my early creative works being almost entirely influenced by this game. I still have drawings somewhere that I did in felt tip pen of some of the game's key art, specifically the dodgeball render of Yoshi. My nana still has a whole ass story that I wrote about Mario, Luigi, and Yoshi making their way through the basketball tournament. And I distinctly remember my intention for this to become a 5-part series, covering all 4 sports and the sports mix mode. I also remember so vividly one of the first times I went to visit my family on the other side of the country. I didn't even know if they had a Wii, but I took Mario Sports Mix with me in the hope that I'd get to play it with my cousins. My hopes came true. And it rocked. I could go on about this game for, I don't know, 9 minutes and 19 seconds, but I'll stop myself for now. Funnily enough, Mario Sports Mix is not the only game I distinctly remember playing on that trip. There was another. While New Super Mario Bros. May have been the first game I ever owned and played, Super Mario 64 DS was my DS game of choice as a kid. This was one of, if not the first games I ever attempted to 100% complete, and me doing so led to countless hours of playtime. I remember every single time my family and I went on a caravan holiday, I'd play this game in the car on the entire journey there. I'd even play it when we went out for lunch in some of the local towns. I was just that obsessed with it. So how does it relate to this particular family trip? Well, because while staying at my nana and granddad's, different nana, totally not confusing, I decided to make a let's play of this game. As a kid in 2013, with only a shitty little laptop and YouTube's built-in webcam recorder, it went about as well as you'd expect. Not at all. Even though it was really weird to do that while visiting family and unbearably cringe-inducing to look back on, that's still a pretty core memory I have with this game. And as per usual, I have 2 more. I mentioned that this was the first game I ever tried to 100%, and I was actually really close to succeeding. I got 149 out of 150 stars, and then I could not find the last star for, I kid you not, bare minimum a whole year. It was one of the castle secret stars, I knew that much. But no matter which parts of the castle I revisited, no matter which toads I talked to, I just could not find it. I believe I eventually found it after putting the game down for a few years. If memory serves, I was missing the secret star in the metal cap level where you use Mario's power balloon to fly above the metal cap box and grab the star. I can't entirely blame myself for missing that one. But probably my favourite memories with this game are the ones spent in this game's equivalent of New Super Mario Bros. DS's Mario vs. Luigi mode. My brother and I would play this little battle mode so often. And unlike everything we've talked about so far, I can actually give you a metric for how much we played it. Super Mario 64 DS is my second most played game on my Nintendo 3DS, and I have 160 hours in this game. Now, it may have taken me a while to get that final star, but I guarantee you that at least 100 of those hours are just from the multiplayer. My brother didn't like losing, naturally, but he did find it absolutely hilarious when, as Yoshi, I would come up to him and eat him and spit him out in some random corner of the level. It was absolutely wonderful. I mentioned that I attempted to make a Let's Play of Super Mario 64 DS, but I never told you who inspired me to do that. YouTube Let's Player ChuggaConroy was a massive influence on my gaming tastes as a kid, and he, as well as Nintendo Capri Sun, made me really want to get into Let's Playing. Through Chugga's Let's Plays though, I was also able to discover games I never knew about that really interested me, one of which being Super Mario Sunshine. I remember the day I found out you could play GameCube games on the Wii. I don't remember how I came to learn this information, but I was ecstatic. I barely could comprehend what a GameCube even was, but it meant that I could play that cool Mario game with the water jetpack that the internet man plays. My grandma and I did some research and discovered that on top of the game, I'd need a GameCube controller and a memory card in order to be able to play this game. We headed to CEX and lo and behold, we found everything we needed right then and there. Side note, this was the first time I ever went into a CEX, which, given how much of my living space is taken up by things I bought from them, ended up being a life-changing moment, and I didn't even know it at the time. Now that I had the ability to play this game, it became the only thing I wanted to do for a good week or so. Naturally, I didn't make a lot of progress very quickly, but I really enjoyed just being in the game's world and making my own fun. For example, I loved doing a silly deaths bit, which was definitely not inspired by stupid deaths from horrible histories in any way, shape, or form. I would sing a little jingle and then try to kill Mario in the most ridiculous ways I could think of. It was awesome. I never found the motivation to beat the game as a kid, because I had already seen everything it had to offer. But that didn't mean I didn't absolutely adore every second I spent with it. And that appreciation would only grow and grow and grow the later into life I got. My purchase of Super Mario Sunshine was largely inspired by ChuggaConroy, but there was one game that I saw him play and became utterly consumed with a need to buy, and that game was Super Paper Mario. I remember the day I got my hands on it so well. I was in my local Granger Games, and I was thinking to myself, God, if they had Super Paper Mario here, it would stand out to me so much. And I imagined the game with a halo of light surrounding it. The light part didn't happen, but sure enough, the game was right in front of me, and I begged my mum to get it for me immediately. This game was something of a slow burner for me. I absolutely loved it as a kid, but I didn't have as deep of an appreciation for it as I do now. When I was a kid, I loved the gameplay, the worlds, the scenarios, and I found all of the characters really amusing. I really liked the 2D, 3D flipping mechanic, and the ways in which it allowed me to explore the worlds of this game. I remember trying to imitate the voices ChuggaConroy gave the characters when he was playing. And I also remember O'Chunks and Mr. L being my absolute favourite characters. My love of this game extends so much deeper than mere nostalgia though. As a kid, I never really picked up on the more somber elements of this game's narrative, but when I replayed it in 2021, my eyes were opened to a whole new side of this game. I found this game's story to be absolutely beautiful. It was a Mario game, sure, but the plot surrounding the collapse of a universe at the hands of a wounded villain was so compelling to me. Seeing worlds collapse before the character's very eyes was really poignant to me, and added an emotional weight to the game that no games have really managed to capture for me. But my absolute favourite part of the game was the story of Timpani and Blumiere. This was a love story that had absolutely nothing to do with Mario, and honestly, that's a big reason as to why I love it so much. It told a truly tragic tale that is slowly revealed to the player over the course of the game's chapters. It was heavy, sad, emotionally taxing, and yet, it was beautiful. It still stands as one of my favourite stories in all of gaming, and I can't imagine much will ever change that. All of these elements I've mentioned make Super Paper Mario my favourite Paper Mario game, and easily one of my favourite games of all time. It's wonderful. It's truly, truly wonderful. Super Mario Galaxy 2 is weirdly a game I do not remember getting my hands on. I remember how I got the first Galaxy game and the relationship I had with it, but Galaxy 2 was a game that sort of just appeared in my life. However, that's not to say that I don't have a plethora of other memories with the game. Super Mario Galaxy 2 is genuinely likely to be my single most played Wii game. My earliest memory with it is discovering Nintendo Capri Sun's Let's Play of the game only a short while after I had begun playing it. I believe it was the same day that I failed the tree slide level in World 3 so many times that the Cosmic Rosalina came in to help me. Nintendo Capri Sun's Let's Play also inspired me to try and make my own, but that one never actually saw the light of day. I remember so vividly the first time I beat the game. It was back when I would stay at my grandma and granddad's every Friday. We would always have our evening meal and then a few hours later watch a movie before heading to bed. This particular night we had planned to watch Scooby-Doo Camp Scare, and I was in the final world of the game getting ready to fight Bowser. My grandma asked me how long it'd be before I was ready to join them for the film, and I replied, it'll probably be ages. I'm about to fight the final boss and I'm going to die loads. Lo and behold, I beat that fight first time. I was ecstatic. I would go on to replay the game at my nana's, and I was eagerly aiming for 100% completion. It took me so long to get to 241 stars, and then it took so long for the final comet to appear, and then it took so long for me to actually beat that final level. But when I did, oh, when I did! There has been no joy in my life that even remotely compares to what I felt then. I replayed this game in 2020 too, and I've been itching to give it another run through ever since. I know people look back on this one a lot less fondly than the first game, but to me, it's just as magical, and it has a lot of unique stuff going for it. I love it to pieces, and I'm still angry that it never came to Switch. Kirby was a series I was never interested in as a kid, until I watched the Runaway guys play through Kirby's Return to Dreamland. I got the game very soon after, but the box said Kirby's Adventure Wii, which confused me a bit. Regardless, I played the first world on the evening I got the game, and had a really fun time with it. The next morning, I woke up with the flu and wasn't well enough to go to school. I was feeling pretty miserable because of how unwell I was, but then I realized this was the perfect opportunity for me to play my new game. And play that game I did. I spent the entire rest of the day playing through this game, and I managed to 100% complete it come bedtime. That was the first time I ever spent an entire day gaming, and it was also the quickest I had ever 100% completed a game. And both of those things really make this game stick with me in my memory. I had a blast playing through this game, and it got me through a pretty gnarly illness, so it'll always hold a special place in my heart for that very reason. And in fact, earlier this year when I got sick, I did the very same thing with the deluxe version on Switch. And you know what? It was just as fun as ever. Where, oh where does one begin with the Smash game of their childhood? My memory of the order of events that led to me getting my hands on this game is a little bit fuzzy, so this could be a little inaccurate, but I believe it went thusly. When I played through Super Mario Galaxy 2 for the first time, I was introduced to the love of my life, Yoshi. I fell in love with the character immediately and tried to find Yoshi videos on YouTube. This led to me watching a YouTube series named The Yoshi and DK Show. I was... not the target audience for this series, but nevertheless, I very much enjoyed it. But being a show made in Smash Brawl, it brought this game to my attention, albeit in an unconventional way. Now, my parents used to be fairly strict with following age ratings, so Smash Brawl was never realistically on my radar. However, one day I saw it in CEX when we were out with my stepbrother. He said to me, "I love Smash Bros," and instead of replying to him, I immediately walked over to my mom and stepdad and said, "If he's allowed a 12 game, why aren't I?" For context, I am a year and a half older than my stepbrother. My mom came over to look at the game I wanted, and upon seeing Mario on the cover, she decided this one was safe. Super Smash Bros. Brawl was mine. To say I put a lot of time into this game since that point would be an understatement. I went through periods of time where it was the only thing I played. Making custom stages, playing through the Subspace Emissary, working my way through all of the event matches, trying to beat my best scores and break the targets, and of course, trying to make my own, totally legally distinct version of the Yoshi and DK show. Whenever that splash screen announcing a new challenge I was approaching flashed on screen, I got giddy. And my stepbrother and I came up with many a theory as to which characters could possibly be in the game, and the most efficient way to unlock them. It was truly a magical experience, and even to this day, a lot of that magic is maintained. I know a lot of people dislike Brawl's gameplay, but to me, it'll always be the Smash game I hold closest to my heart. And one of these days, I'll finally unlock Sandbag as a playable character. Trust me. Here we have it, folks, the final Nintendo Wii game that defined my childhood. Donkey Kong Country Returns is another in a long line of games that I don't remember the origin of my time with very well at all. All I really know is that I had it, and I fell absolutely head over heels in love with it. I played through this game multiple times, both in single player and co-op with my stepbrother. I don't think I was ever particularly good at the game, but that didn't make me love it any less. The scenery of each of the levels took my breath away. The gameplay was certainly different than what I was used to with Mario and Kirby, but it was uniquely fantastic and kept me hooked. And the sound design. Good lord, the sound design! The OST for this game is obviously a certified banger, but I think what stands out in my mind even more is the sound effects. Stuff like the sound of collecting bananas, or Kong letters, or puzzle pieces, or returning to a level after dying. Those sound clips fill me with such an intense, deep-rooted feeling of nostalgia that I have a hard time replicating with any other game I've ever played before. It's truly a spectacular game, and one that I cannot wait to re-experience when it comes to the Switch. In January. So bizarre! Donkey Kong Country Returns may have been the final Wii game to define my childhood, but that doesn't mean it was the last game I played on my Wii that defined my childhood. After finding out that I could play them on my Wii, I would end up getting my hands on 2 more GameCube games after Super Mario Sunshine, one of which was Mario Kart Double Dash. I absolutely adored this game as a kid. I definitely put more raw time into Mario Kart Wii, but Double Dash was such a mystifying experience for me. The 2 characters per kart concept really captivated me. I loved coming up with really weird combinations like Koopa Paratrooper and Baby Mario. I also loved using the GameCube controller as opposed to a sideways Wii remote, as this was before I had discovered any other means by which one may control Mario Kart Wii. But above all else, I loved the battle modes. Every single one of them was a blast, even if I was just playing by myself against CPUs. My absolute favourite was Bob on Blast. My stepbrother and I would play this game fairly frequently, and we would spend most of our time in this mode just digging around and being silly. One of us would always shout, "Fire at will!" before unloading like 4 or 5 bob-ombs, and the other would always reply with, "Who is Will?" It was stupid, but we would die laughing each and every time. Here we are, folks, the final game of my childhood. Super Smash Bros. Melee was the final GameCube game I experienced as a kid, and this game sparked a turning point within me. I had a lot of fun playing it, and I have a lot of memories with it, but this game also caused me to go through something of a crisis. I don't think this game was directly the cause of this, but one day I was playing Smash Melee and I suddenly realized I don't want to do this anymore. I have no idea why or what changed, but I suddenly felt very strongly that I did not want to play video games anymore. Holding that GameCube controller, hearing the menu theme, and hovering over Yoshi before playing a match, this feeling culminated in a physical, visceral reaction. I didn't want to play games anymore, so I stopped. The first half of our journey is over, and I'd like to take just a little bit of time to reflect on everything that's happened so far. We've seen how my gaming journey began. Such a simple introduction to the medium, but ultimately a moment that would change my life forever. We've seen my tastes evolve as I'm introduced to more and more games, through natural exposure, word of mouth, or the many hours I spent on the internet. We've seen how the smallest moments can be cemented in my mind and heart as some of my most cherished memories with this medium, that stick with me even to this very day. And of course, we've begun to see a shift in my perception of games. We've seen me question whether they're even something I want to engage with at all. The rest of our story is yet to unfold, my friends, and I look forward to taking you through the rest of this journey. But for now, we rest, we reflect, and we look forward to what may lie ahead. After my Smash Melee inspired epiphany, I stopped playing games entirely for quite a while. Looking back on that time is very bizarre to me. I still can't put my finger on what actually caused me to feel the way I did, nor can I remember how I filled my time without games. All I know is that for a while, I was pretty committed to a game-free life. Or at least, I was, until my girlfriend at the time introduced me to this cool little game on her iPad. It was called Minecraft. This changed everything. All over again, I was infatuated with a game and wanted to spend all of my time doing absolutely nothing but playing that game. The Pocket edition of Minecraft is where most of my fondest memories lie. My girlfriend at the time, her sister and I created our very own survival world, where we each built tall wooden houses and connected them together with a cobblestone driveway. I made many a creative world where I would try to build some really cool stuff, like an ice castle and a city. I even installed a third-party app that allowed Pocket Edition to have servers, and the amount of hours I sunk into that was completely unfathomable. Minecraft would also be the thing that probably kickstarted my time making stuff on YouTube. I had been making plush videos since I was 10, but Minecraft inspired me to start many a channel, to do gameplay videos and mod reviews by myself and with friends. The one that I was most active on was named after my very first Minecraft character. See, one day when the girlfriend who introduced me to the game and I were playing, she said to me, "Ew, why is your name Steve?" This confused me, but she went on to tell me that you could change your name in the pause menu. I had no idea what to name myself, so I took one look at her in-game name, LG Cool Dude, and created a name in the same format using my own initials. I won't tell you that name because that channel still exists and has some unbearably cringy stuff on it, along with way too many personal details. But regardless, that name stuck for many years. My friends still sometimes call me it jokingly, and I don't know how to feel about that. But thanks to Minecraft, I was back into video games, and looking forward to playing something new. I wonder what that may be. Christmas Day 2012. I received a red Nintendo 3DS, and alongside it, 2 games. Mario Kart 7 was the first game I played on my shiny new handheld, but I'd be lying if I said it had quite the same impact on me as Super Mario 3D Land did. Nowadays, this game is the absolute epitome of my nostalgia. Every single thing about this game fills me with a pure childlike glee, the likes of which nothing else on the planet does. The music, the visuals, the overall sound design, the levels themselves, and the gameplay that ties all of these things together, it's all so good! I remember when I first beat the castle in the first special world and was able to play as Luigi. It was such a joyous experience for me. I also remember getting my hands on the 2 plushes for the game, Tanuki Mario and Kitsune Luigi, and really wanting to make videos inspired by the game's snow levels, purely because it was January and the desire to make plush videos didn't die with my desire to play games. I would go on to replay 3D Land many a time over the years, and I still play it once every couple of years. It really is a special game to me, even if by all accounts, it is a pretty standard Mario experience. The Christmas after I got my 3DS was the day that a little system known as the Nintendo Wii U would enter my life. This, unbeknownst to me, would be a pretty big deal, considering how consistently I've used the console since that day, and the fact that I own over 50% of the PAL library of games for it. I will hit 100% soon, I swear. By the time I got my hands on the console, a lot of its heaviest hitters had yet to release, so I did what I think most Wii U owners did. I got the system with New Super Mario Bros. U and the far more impactful Nintendo Land. Say what you will about how this game compares to Wii Sports as a system seller, but I will defend this game until the cows come home. Having a virtual Nintendo theme park to mess around in was a dream come true for me as a kid, and the sheer variety of series represented in the attractions gave me an awareness of franchises I'd never even heard of before. I didn't know what the hell an F-Zero or an Animal Crossing were, but I had a blast playing their attractions in Nintendo Land, so they must be pretty good. That asymmetric gameplay was where it was at though. Multiplayer happened less frequently than I would have liked it to, but when it did, it was an invigorating experience. Having different things happen on the gamepad than the TV was an extremely exciting concept to me back then. Most of my time with the game was spent in single player though, and this was still an absolute blast. I have such strong memories of trying to get the highest score I could and unlock all of the courses in Donkey Kong's Crash Course. And I also remember finding the Yoshi Fruit attraction really difficult, but I loved it all the same. I desperately wish this game would get some sort of love on the Switch, be that a sequel or a port. I'll take anything. The concepts at play and their execution are just too good to not explore at least one more time. 2014 was something of a quiet gaming year for me, or at least that was the case until the internet was abuzz thanks to a little indie horror game known as Five Nights at Freddy's. When the game first saw its initial burst of popularity, I had no means by which to actually play it, but I more than made up for that with the sheer amount of FNAF-related content I consumed. Let's plays, theories, top 10s, parodies, every piece of FNAF media I could get my hands on, I devoured eagerly. I remember the day that FNAF 2 was announced, and I also remember a nightmare I had on holiday around the time FNAF 3 released. It featured Springtrap and very little else, and that nightmare was infinitely scarier than FNAF 3 ended up being. While I'm not big on the gameplay side of the pre-Steel Wool games, FNAF as a franchise still holds a massive place in my heart, and the trend of consuming as much content for it as possible has not really subsided all that much, as I'm one of the few people who have actually read the books. And they're really good. Cope and seethe. Also, fun bonus story, when I found out how to get custom skins on Minecraft Pocket Edition, an immeasurable amount of my time was spent finding the best FNAF skins I could. God damn it, I love this franchise. Nintendo Land and New Super Mario Bros. U kept me playing my Wii U for an okay amount of time throughout 2014, but my playtime was kicked into overdrive that Christmas when I got my hands on Mario Kart 8. This is probably my single most played Wii U game. As soon as I got my hands on it, I fell head over heels in love. The visuals, the music, and the track designs were all such a spectacle to behold. But that gameplay is really what caught my attention. I wasn't particularly well versed in Mario Kart at the time. I'd played every entry since Double Dash, but I wasn't exactly intimately familiar with those games mechanically. And yet, I could still tell that the gameplay on offer in this game was absolutely second to none. I loved the anti-grav mechanics and the return of the gliders and underwater sections from 7. I loved the way it felt to drive around these courses, as each character had a distinct and perfect weight to them. I loved playing this game. Unlocking all of the characters was a particularly fun time, but I don't think any memories with this game will ever compare to those that I made with my dad. You see, my dad and I had something of a ritual that would take place near enough every time I visited him. We'd play some Mario Kart, order a pizza, and watch a movie. For a little while, this tradition was fulfilled with Mario Kart Wii, but once Mario Kart 8 came out, we jumped ship and never looked back. I remember it all so distinctly. I'd always be Yoshi and he'd always be Larry Cooper, and we'd both coincidentally use the exact same kart combination. We had such a fun time racing through every level in the game over and over and over again, and I would never tire of him accusing me of having cheats installed every time I won. It was predictable, yet endlessly entertaining to me. And if you want more evidence that Mario Kart 8 is one of my very favourite games, it's my third most played game on the Switch. I've been consistently playing this exact same game for well over a decade, and I still have not grown tired of it. That is the power of this game. A lot of my gaming adventures were influenced by the internet, but I don't think any game can claim that more than Undertale. This was another game that I didn't play for a little while after I discovered it, but much like FNAF, I consumed a lot of Undertale content. I absolutely fell in love with the world and characters this game presented me with, but what fascinated me the most was the morality system that played into the entire experience. Choosing whether to defeat or spare enemies, and the unique gameplay avenues that opened up because of this as a concept still fascinates me to this very day. It allowed the game's characters to feel so much more real than the cast of any other game I'd played. But the thing that keeps me coming back to Undertale more than almost anything else it has to offer is its soundtrack. This game's OST is just banger after banger after banger. Not a single track misses here. It's all so good, and the soundtrack as a whole covers a wide variety of musical styles and moods. Undertale is a game truly unlike any other, and if you haven't played it yet, do yourself a favor and get on it. The game is cheap and available literally everywhere. Do it! My time with the Wii U was primarily spent with the titles I've already discussed, Wii backwards compatibility, or a couple of years after its successor hit the scene. However, there was one more Wii U game that was able to completely and utterly captivate me, and that was Smash 4. I could nitpick this game to hell and back if you let me, and I honestly think that I hold the 3DS version of Smash 4 in much higher regard than the Wii U version. But regardless, Smash for Wii U got me playing this system very regularly from its release in 2014 all the way to 2017. Some of my fondest memories with this game were spent with my close friend Pigeon. We had a period of time where we'd play this game every single night after school, and we'd have so much fun digging around in custom stages, or trying to play seriously and improve our skills, or even just playing with items on for the hell of it. I don't remember when or why this stopped being a thing we did, but I really cherish those memories. I also remember being so hyped when Mewtwo and Lucas were announced as DLC fighters, and then not even being aware of the rest of the additional characters until years after the fact. And of course, I couldn't talk about this game without mentioning Amiibo. This was the game that introduced them, and I fell right into Nintendo's pocket. I remember the first Christmas I was given Amiibo, and the very first one I opened was Luigi. I've amassed many Amiibo over the years since then, but I'll always remember Luigi as my first. After After around 2015, maybe early 2016, I reached a point where I didn't really have any Nintendo games I wanted to play anymore. I was still gaming every now and then, mostly thanks to Minecraft and Smash, but for the most part, my gaming habits naturally fizzled out, until I got my hands on Overwatch. I cannot even begin to describe how much this game means to me. I only knew that it was a thing because my friends Ryan and, again, Pigeon had gotten it for Christmas with their Xboxes and were playing it so much. They were telling me for months about just how much fun this game was and how I needed to get an Xbox One just to play this game. And eventually, come Christmas 2016, I did just that. I got myself an Xbox One S and a copy of Overwatch. And my friends, I cannot even begin to describe just how much my life became consumed by Overwatch. There was not a single night that went by where I wasn't playing this game from the moment I got home from school to the moment I went to bed. To be perfectly honest, I was a terrible student. I didn't do any homework at home. Home was the place that Overwatch happened, okay? I don't have time to do maths questions right now. I need to get queued in a competitive lobby, okay? Come to think of it, I actually have no fucking clue how I did well in school at all, because this Overwatch addiction, it overtook everything. It didn't matter what we played. Quick play, arcade, competitive, custom games, didn't matter. It didn't matter who I was playing with, whether it was just one or two or a full team, which combination of friends was lobbying together, which of my many mains I was playing. It genuinely could not have mattered less. Any time that I spent playing Overwatch was time I spent happy. And even though Overwatch 2 leaves a sour taste in my mouth with a lot of the decisions made surrounding it, I'll never not hold this game incredibly close to my heart. And that, my friends, ends the chapter of my life that took place before the Nintendo Switch. From here on out, just know that there are going to be a lot of games that I really want to talk about, but that the Christmas season doesn't have enough days for me to talk about. The next few games are some of the most influential games that I have ever, and most likely will ever play, and I look forward to sharing them with you all. Now, around the time I got super into Overwatch, I was aware of the NX and caught the odd bit of news about its reveal and release, but I wasn't super interested in the system yet. That was, at least, until I saw trailers for one game in particular, Super Mario Odyssey. This game made me ravenous. Never before had a game looked so incredible. I saw this game and I knew I needed to get my hands on a Switch to play it. Fast forward to Christmas 2017, the Switch and the game were finally mine, and I was absolutely ecstatic. And my friends, I played that game the entire rest of the Christmas season. By the time night fell on the same day I got it, I had already made my way to the Snow Kingdom and had loved every single second of what I played. I finished the game before the new year had been rang in, and I couldn't wait to get 100% completion. It didn't take me long to realize that this was the best game I'd ever played. Super Mario Odyssey is my favorite game of all time. A lot of the games I'll be talking about for the rest of this discussion have absolutely come close to topping it, but without Super Mario Odyssey, I never would have played any of them to begin with. I couldn't possibly talk about why I love this game so much in just this short highlight. I just have too much to say. Just know that this game is incredible, and the reason we're having this very conversation to begin with. I got my Switch with Super Mario Odyssey and 4 other games. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, Splatoon 2, Mario + Rabbids Kingdom Battle, and the first non-Odyssey one that I played, The Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild. I knew absolutely nothing about this game before I had my hands on it. I mean it. I was only aware of this game's existence because Mr. Pigeon got it a few months prior and told me that he really enjoyed it. I had never seen a trailer for it, I didn't know what kind of game it was, and I had never even played a Zelda game before. And my friends, I could not possibly be more grateful for that. Breath of the Wild had a profound impact on me. The game is already fantastic in its own right, obviously, and its open world and intricate systems captivated me within moments. But I cannot possibly understate how much more I enjoyed the game having gone in completely blind. I had absolutely zero clue what to expect from this game, which meant that every individual thing about it that wowed me had an even greater impact. I was enamored by this game. It filled me with a magical feeling that few games other than Odyssey have ever filled me with. The sense of mystery and discovery was overpowering and left me with a true sense of adventurous glee. I would give anything to re-experience this game the way I first did, to relive those magical moments with a fresh mind, and to lose myself in the rich expanses of the Kingdom of Hyrule. Even though I had been a Nintendo fan for most of my life, I had never heard of Nintendo Directs until 2018 rolled around. The first one I ever watched was in March of that year, and the final announcement it had to offer was for a brand new Super Smash Bros. Game. At least, we assumed it was a new Smash game, and not just a port of Smash 4. To say I was excited is an understatement. Smash was one of my very favourite series, and having it on my still very new Nintendo Switch was a very exciting idea to me. E3 2018 rolled around, and Pigeon and I watched in eager anticipation of some Smash-related news. And oh boy, did Nintendo deliver. I still remember so vividly how uncontrollably hyped that presentation got us. We were sat in his living room while his mum worked from home in the room directly above us. She probably did not have a productive hour because we lost our fucking minds at damn near everything Sakurai showed off. And that was only the beginning, my friends. Super Smash Bros. Ultimate is a top 10 game for me, easily. I still play it multiple times a week, but I will always remember the build-up to release more than almost anything else. The leaks, the speculation, and of course, those juicy fighter reveals. The sheer unadulterated excitement that was this game's reveal cycle is something I feel may never be recaptured. Super Smash Bros. Ultimate is a true achievement. A celebration of gaming the likes of which we may never see again in our lifetimes. It's a special game, and it gave me playable King K. Rool. My life is complete. There have been games that I've discussed today that have been difficult for me to be concise about, but my friends, I am legitimately intimidated at the prospect of telling you my feelings for this next game with any sort of brevity. In the September 2018 Nintendo Direct, they revealed a new Animal Crossing game for the Switch. At the time, this meant very little to me, as I had never played an Animal Crossing game, nor had I ever really heard of the series. A month later, my current girlfriend and I got together, and after the new year arrived, we ended up on the topic of games coming soon that we were both excited for. She told me that she could not wait for the new Animal Crossing game, as she's a huge fan of the series. We got to talking about the series, and she highly recommended I gave one of the games a go. Turns out, my friends, I had at the very least heard of Animal Crossing, because sat at home with the rest of my 3DS games was a copy of Animal Crossing New Leaf. So I put it in my 3DS and started a new town, completely unaware of the shockwave this decision would send throughout the rest of my life. I don't want to go too deep into this, but 2019 was not a good year for me. At all. I was in and out of hospital due to my asthma, I was trying all sorts of new medications, and my mental health was at an all-time low. Despite all the good that was going on in my life, holidays, fun times with friends, the blossoming of a relationship that's still going strong over 6 years after it began, I spent most of my days feeling very down and anxious. I experienced my first ever panic attacks and would have to go through that experience somewhat regularly. I was intermittently unable to attend school, see my friends, or do much else besides laying in my bed and crying from frustration and desperation. It was a miserable time in my life. Every time I see a photo from that year, I see how unwell I was, how sunken in my eyes were, how thin I was, how unhappy I looked. I look back on that year with almost no fondness. But little did I know, one of the biggest things that pulled me out the other side was the cute little game that my girlfriend enthusiastically recommended to me. I played that game every day. I took my 3DS with me everywhere I went, and I formed a deep, spiritual connection with it. This town was my escape from reality. The pain and anger I felt nearly every day, it faded away when I was wandering around this village, catching bugs, talking to the neighbors, and visiting Main Street. I was given the chance to be someone else. Somewhere else. My girlfriend and I would bond massively over my time in the game. I'd keep her updated on all of my milestones, and she'd share in my revelry when I'd achieve something big like a store upgrade or a new public works project that I was really excited for. This game helped me be excited to wake up every morning, when doing so was really difficult. It helped me form the single most important connection I'll ever make to another person, and it made me happier than almost any game ever has. There were other games that helped me through this period of my life, such as Celeste and Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze, but their support didn't even remotely compare to New Leaf's. In many ways, I owe my life to this game. I owe my relationship to this game. I owe everything to this game. And for that, I will never, ever stop loving it. Throughout 2019, and thanks to both new releases in long-running franchises and the YouTubers I was watching frequently at the time, I began to take an interest in retro games, specifically GameCube games. As we know by now, I had some GameCube game experiences in my childhood, and they were just as fun as, if not more fun than the Wii games I played. So in late 2019 and early 2020, I got my hands on 4 GameCube games, and believe me, I could be talking about any of those 4 right now. I got Pikmin, Animal Crossing, Luigi's Mansion, and Metroid Prime. Of these games, Metroid Prime was the one I played first. I remember playing it on an evening before going to bed for school the next day. I'd watch an episode of 13 Reasons Why, then play half an hour or so of Metroid Prime. My girlfriend was very concerned for me. Nevertheless, I remember the thing that captivated me the absolute most about that game was the atmosphere. The deafening isolation of the planet Talon 4, the moody, atmospheric music, the gorgeous, towering natural landscapes that blended beautifully with Chozo-made structures. It was all so exhilarating to me. I was not very good at this game. Like, at all. I couldn't get the hang of the combat, I kept getting lost, and I ended up putting the game down for a few weeks after I started it. It took me a long time to finally get back to it, but come early 2022, I finally gave this thing my full attention, and I beat it. Almost. That final boss was not something I could beat. I tried many a time, and I just couldn't do it. My failures aside though, this game captivated me all over again, and after I finally got the hang of the combat system, I was able to truly appreciate and fall in love with the game. It's a beautiful experience that I truly believe every gamer should play, especially now that the HD version is available on Switch. It's such a poignant game with super tight gameplay, a really innovative and interesting form of story progression, and some delectable treats for the eyes and ears alike. It's a masterpiece. The day is March 20th, 2020. After falling in love with New Leaf and eagerly watching every individual frame of footage released for this game with my girlfriend, Animal Crossing New Horizons was finally here. The last few weeks had been pretty weird. There was a virus going around that was making people seriously ill and spreading like crazy. It had gotten to the point that school trips had been cancelled, and on the morning of this game's release, our school announced to us students that it was shutting its doors for at least a few weeks until this all passed by. We were assured that our final exams, due to take place later that same year, would still go ahead as planned, and we were told to be on the lookout for updates. But for now, none of that mattered to my girlfriend and I, because we finally had our hands on this game. We raced to my house after school, and we spent the entire rest of the day playing this game. We made sure we were perfectly in sync so that neither of us would experience anything before the other person did. And we had so much fun exploring our islands and discovering all the new features this game had to offer. And then, at around 8 o'clock, the news hit. The entirety of the UK was being put on lockdown, effective immediately. Everyone was to stay in their own homes, only leaving when absolutely necessary, and we were not to see anybody from outside of our households. I remember so distinctly the moment that my girlfriend and I realised what this meant. I remember the tears we shed at the thought of being unable to see each other at all for an undisclosed amount of time. And above all else, I remember the bittersweetness of the rest of our evening. We were having such an incredible time together, and yet, we knew it would be our last for at least a little while. We didn't know when the lockdowns would end. We didn't know when this pandemic would pass. The only thing keeping us sane was Animal Crossing New Horizons. We both played this game almost every waking hour of every single day. We'd be on FaceTime to one another the whole time, discussing the progress we were making financially, or towards our towns, or towards getting a high enough rating to unlock certain features. We'd visit each other all the time to see how we were both getting on. We'd say hi to each other's villagers, we'd play hide and seek on our islands, and it was a bit of happiness that we desperately needed during that time. I played this game religiously, every single day, for well over a year. I believe it's my single most played game ever, with the almost 1,500 hours I've logged into it. It releasing when it did, and giving me the opportunity to spend time with my girlfriend when we were unable to do so in person, it made 2020 so much less painful than it could have ended up being. And I'm incredibly grateful for that. It may not be my favourite game ever, but New Horizons was one of the most important games in the entire world to me, and I still get the urge to get back into it every few weeks. Throughout the Switch's life, there have been many a game that excited me, but none quite so much as Pikmin 4. After buying the first game in 2019, I finally got around to giving it a try in 2020, and I ended up absolutely adoring it. Once Pikmin 3 Deluxe was announced, I gave Pikmin 2 a shot, but life got in the way and I didn't end up getting very far through it. Pikmin 3 Deluxe was one of my most anticipated games of 2020, which, granted, isn't saying much, but I absolutely devoured that thing when it released. And it firmly cemented Pikmin as one of my all-time favourite series. After 3 Deluxe, I finally picked 2 back up, finished it and adored it, and replayed 1 and 3 at least 2 more times each. I was thoroughly hooked on these games, and all at once, I understood the desperate pleas of series fans who had been eagerly awaiting a new entry for almost a decade. And my friends, I became just another Pikmin fan begging for Pikmin 4. But like many others, I'm sure, I didn't really have much faith that the game would ever see the light of day, or if it was going to, it wouldn't be on the Switch. So when the September 2022 Nintendo Direct rolled around, I was completely and utterly awestruck. I sat in agony as Miyamoto talked about Pikmin Bloom for what felt like a lifetime, and then I screamed in utter glee when they revealed that Pikmin 4 was real, and it was coming in 2023. Never before has the wait for a game been so difficult. Never before have I been so desperate to get my hands on a game. And when I was finally able to, it was everything. Every time I've talked about Pikmin 4, I've intentionally kept things brief, because I could fill hours of time with paragraphs upon paragraphs about just how dear this game is to me, but I need to do it on my own terms. But I will say this, no game has ever given Super Mario Odyssey a run for its money quite like Pikmin 4. If I were to replay both games to completion right now, I couldn't say with 100% certainty that Odyssey would still be my favourite of all time. That is how utterly obsessed I am with Pikmin 4. I've said it before, and I'll say it as many more times as I need to. If you have not played Pikmin 4, please do yourself a favour and give this game a chance. To not even try this game is to do yourself a grave disservice. It is a truly magical, special experience, and I don't want anybody to miss out on that. Well, my friends, we've made it. We have reached the end of our journey together. Our final game is Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door, and if you know me, then you know why this one is so important. I got this game for £30 from a feathered friend back in 2020, when the game was selling for upward of £120. It was his childhood copy that he had sold to me after playing through the Origami King had gotten me excited about trying out the rest of the series. I fell in love with this game instantly, and that love has truly never ceased since that first playthrough. This is a rather fitting game to end on, because thanks to the remake, it's also the game I've been playing the most recently. When that remake was announced, I could do nothing but cry. After seeing the ways in which the Paper Mario series quality had dwindled to less than a shadow of its former self, seeing this game be brought back into the spotlight made my entire soul happy. Thousand Year Door is a game I connect with on such a deep level. It's not Mario Odyssey or Pikmin 4 or New Leaf, and in terms of the actual game, I may prefer Super Paper Mario just a little bit. But man, this is a really important game to me. I love it so dearly, and I'm so happy that it came to Switch. While this final song plays, I'd like to take a moment to reflect on our time together. I want to thank you all for joining me on this journey through my gaming past, and I sincerely hope that you enjoyed the ride. I hope that through this, you have a deeper understanding of who I am, as a gamer, but also as a person. I hope that you learned something new and enjoyed doing so. I hope that I've got you thinking about some new games you may want to add to your backlog, but most of all, I hope you enjoyed the tunes that I had to share. Thank you. It's been an honor. Come on, did you really think I could go through this entire journey without mentioning my channel's theme song? There's a lot I could say about Super Mario Galaxy, but I'll save that for another time. Instead, I'll focus on what this theme and what my channel mean to me. I've been making YouTube videos since about 2011. I never truly stopped until around 2017, 2018-ish, but I was always just making gameplay videos or really paper-thin content. Nothing that was really creatively fulfilling to me. I had so many ideas for videos I wanted to make, but I never had the time or the self-belief to make them a reality. When the pandemic hit in 2020 though, it was like the world had granted me the perfect opportunity on a golden face mask. I began making videos almost immediately, and yeah, they were pretty bad, but they were finally scratching the creative itch I'd been feeling for almost a decade. And once the ball was rolling, it was near enough impossible to stop. I can't name a single day in the past almost 5 years where I haven't been thinking about this channel, what I want to do with it, the highs I dream it could reach. This channel has given me so much just by existing, and all of the people who've supported me along the way have helped shape it into what it is today. Thank you all from the bottom of my heart for everything that you all do for me. I love you all dearly, and you've helped me become the creator and person I am today.
And as we bring this adventure through the eras of my gaming journey to a close, I find myself eagerly anticipating the next era of Rawk. Big changes are coming, my friends, and I, for one, can't wait to see how things turn out. The future of our little chats is looking exceptionally bright, and sticking with today's theme, I think it's about time we usher in the new era of Rawk with some new music. But for now, I just want to say Merry Christmas, and thank you. Thank you so much for everything that you do for me. Rawk out.